I'm Kev.
And I'm Steve.
And we're from the internet.
Want to get your question answered on a future episode of We're From The Internet? Head over to we'refromtheinternet.com/question, tweet your questions at KevinSteve, email kevinsteve@gmail.com, or post them at facebook.com/KevinSteve, or even leave them in the comments for this episode.
Hi Kev, hi Steve. Geek Culture Radio aside, what are your favourite podcasts?
I like Kevin Steve's Indie Publishing Adventure. That's not part of Geek Culture Radio, is it? No, that's a particularly good one. It's where one very handsome young man
Thank you.
and his sidekick talk about books and stuff. That's excellent. I really enjoy that show. What about you? Do you like any others?
We're From the Internet.
Is that not? I hear that's not a Geek Culture Radio show either. That one is where a very handsome young man and his balding sidekick
Still there.
go on about stuff that people ask us about. That one's good. Geek Culture Radio, by the way, for those of you who don't know, is the UK's most awesome video game and geek nerdiness podcast collective. There was probably a proper elevator pitch for that we had at some point, but I can't remember what it was.
It's our network of gaming shows.
That's a much more succinct way of putting it.
Outside of the shows that we are directly involved in as hosts or network owners
or creative consultants.
Yeah, I really like listening to things like This American Life. I think it's absolutely amazing.
I've never listened to a proper This American Life. I listen to Serial because as a podcaster, it's recommended reading. You have to have it.
Yeah.
But I've never actually listened to This American Life. What's that about? Is it funny?
It's different every week.
Podcasts.
So it's just it just tells you stories about people and stuff. So some of them are funny, some of them are really interesting, or you learn something, or sometimes they're a bit sad. But it's just random stories from Americans about their lives.
Where did they get the name from?
I was just trying to think what it was really talking about this week. It was just all about. Do you know what? They change so often. They did about crimes from the police officer's perspective, like when criminals are saying, like, let me go, I can't breathe, and that sort of stuff. And then sometimes people die because they genuinely couldn't breathe, but then they followed police on the beat for a week, and pretty much everyone you arrest says, I can't breathe, let me go. And so 1 in a million might actually be telling the truth. And it's interesting just hearing that sort of thing. But they did the Father's Day one where people were talking about their dads and how their dads had random stories about what they'd done. This week's one was about the what are they called? Basically the
Super Nintendo.
No, the soups they call them, don't they, in America?
Superintendents.
Is that what it's called? The caretakers?
So. Supervisor, maybe?
Maybe. It was just like stories about people's supervisors, as it were, in their blocks of flats. There's one guy that told all these tall tales. And it was just interesting hearing about him and the block that he looked after, and then all the things about his life. That was only like one act of 3, but it's usually like a 3 or 4 act story with 4 different stories in it and that sort of thing. I recommend everyone have a crack at it.
I might just download it. Although I did just, when you were talking about it, I did have a look at my podcast list on my phone, and I have got loads on there. So I don't know where I'm going to fit it in because I'm getting behind on all of them. Obviously, Complete Guide to Everything.
Oh yeah, can't forget them.
I think that was probably our inspiration for going into podcasting, because if we go back nearly 6 years ago now, when we first started Original Best Thing From, I'd started listening to them about a month before, and that's where the whole let's do a podcast about this stupid idea that we were probably going to do a blog or a website or something, and we discovered this new podcasting nonsense, and we're finally going to meet them. Well, by the time this comes out, we'll have met them.
We will have,
because we're going down to London for see them live on Saturday.
So mine's thoroughly tidy compared to yours. I've literally got 3 podcasts in there.
And you haven't got the Complete Guide to Everything on there.
No, I've listened to them.
I've
deleted all the ones I've already listened to. Well, I cleaned it the other day. I listened to Freakonomics for the first time today, and they're not too bad. They were talking about
yourself.
That was just high in the charts, so I clicked it. I'm not keen on that. He's a little bit jolly.
Is he motivational?
And he also annoyed me just purely. This is just me being an idiot. But his show's only 10 minutes long, and in one of his most recent shows, he said, I was listening to another show in another genre that's only 10 minutes long, that comes out often, And it was a load of rubbish. And I just thought, I was sat there, I just thought, you son of a gun. But there's no inkling that he was talking about us. And, I'm 99.9% sure there's no chance in hell he was. But it just grated me either way. But no, I've started just going down the chart, skipping all the BBC comedy or music ones.
You skipped the comedy ones?
Well, the BBC ones, I mean.
Okay.
Because I just think it's BBC.
Mark Maron, he had Barack Obama on his show this week. That's ridiculous.
That is pretty mad.
I haven't listened to it yet, but that would be worth a listen.
I was thinking the other
WTF
day,
with Mark Maron.
Complete tangent here, which is unlike me. Do you think, because if he can get Barack Obama on his show, how many listeners do you have that he got that happening?
Oh, millions.
But I was thinking the other day, if I can convince every world leader to come up for a meeting with me, the common man,
yeah.
I was thinking, would that get me killed?
Yep.
Because I'd be putting too much pressure on.
Just sending the first email asking to meet him. That would get you on a list.
No, I just mean I don't know. Imagine if the momentum was growing around it, and I had 30 of the world's most powerful leaders.
Are you going to tell them all that the other 29 have all agreed?
Yeah. Okay. I'd be saying
the other 29 are already here. Get on a plane.
And I'd be using that to sort of just, leverage against all the others. And then they'd be like, oh, look at China, not cool enough to turn up, eh? And then they'd be like, China's cool. Here we come. And they'd come along. And
something wrong with you.
And I just thought, I wonder how much effort it would take.
Too much effort.
How much publicity.
Wouldn't happen.
I bet you'd get a few. No, if he can get Barack Obama on his show, I bet you could get a few.
Looking at my list, I realise that I really am an obsessive psychopath.
They're all about books.
They're all about books, writing, or business. So I've got the Creative Pen, which is excellent. I mean, if you're not interested in writing podcasts, ignore all these. The Self-Publishing Podcast, the Rocking Self-Publishing Podcast, the Sell More Books Show, Self-Publishing Questions. I've got Pop Everything, which is the other show from the Complete Guide to Everything. Entrepreneur on Fire, which is, again, that is partly responsible for the fact that we do a daily show. Do you mind not putting your can on my iPad, you monster? Because that show comes out every day, and I just thought we could do a daily show. Because I started listening to that about a month before we started doing this show. Got the Tim Ferriss show. I
liked his, actually. I listened to it for a little bit, and I forgot about him. Yeah,
the latest one, I forget who it was with. It was Rags to Riches Philosopher with Brian Johnston. I don't know who he is, but it was fantastic for just general business and motivational stuff. That episode is well worth a listen. Smart Passive Income with Pat Flynn. The Author Strong Podcast, Writing Excuses, and a podcast of Ice and Fire.
They are meant to be a bit angry.
They're not. No,
are they all right?
No, they're all right. I listen.
I might be thinking of somebody else.
I've tried a few different Game of Thrones ones,
yeah.
And a lot of them are just really annoying book bores. But the reason I listen to this, I don't listen to them weekly, but after every episode of the show, they do a review of the show, and then between seasons of the show, they go back to talking about the books, so I don't bother listening then, because I'm still only 3.5 books in. But I listen to all the ones about the TV show episodes. Because
what's been their opinion? Do they like it?
They like it. They actually listening to it, but because after the season had finished, I listened back through the full season's worth of podcasts again, so they're only half an hour long each, and they called pretty much everything after episode 1. They said, right, this is going to happen. Then this is going to happen. They're going to have to, I don't want to throw spoilers out there, but they've got to kill this person. They're going to have to do this bit this way. And they basically sat down and said, if we were the showrunners, you'd have to do it this way to make it fit into a TV show. They have to rush this storyline because of this happening. And then they've got to do it all in 7 seasons. So they have to drop this bit. And they basically nailed it after episode 1. It was ridiculous. I wonder if they know someone. It was. I mean, the final scene of episode 10, they had.
Everyone knew that.
No, but you didn't know it was going to happen like that.
Yeah, you did.
Not exactly like that.
I did.
How?
Because A, it's similar to the books, and B.
But they called the fact that you wouldn't have the build-up bits to it that they dropped out of the show.
I knew they didn't have any build-up in the books. They had more build-up in the show. Way more build-up. Episodes beforehand.
They also called the election happening the way it did, which apparently, well, I know that's very different because I've read the election.
Yeah.
So they're pretty.
That one had to be rushed though. They're
pretty
sense.
Clever chaps. But yeah, I really need to listen to some more funny ones because this is a bit depressing looking through this list.
It used to be full of funny ones. Listening to the businessy, motivational, clever ones.
And also, I've got no other gaming podcasts in there now. I used to listen to all the other gaming shows, but I'm so bored of gaming podcasts. Ours is good, but everyone else trash. Apart from the Geek Culture Radio ones, they're lovely. Start listening to them, really. Want to get every episode of We're From The Internet at least a day earlier than the iTunes and Stitcher folk? Head over to we'refromtheinternet.com/pledge to support us on Patreon, and as well as early access, we'll throw in an exclusive weekly show just for our patrons too.